Hello there. One of the big advantages of being in this profession of either as a journalist or an editor is that we get a chance to interact up close and personal with thought leaders who, through their razor-sharp focus, tenacity, resilience, have been making dents in the universe. Today, we get an opportunity to meet up close and personal with Mr. Bryan Stirewalt, Regulatory Services Authority leader for EY in the Middle East, North Africa. Welcome to the show, Bryan.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So let's begin at the beginning, Bryan. Very curious to know about your growing up years, your childhood memories, any spark of inspiration that has kind of stayed with you over the years?
Yeah, very good question. So I grew up in the United States, and I grew up on a farm, actually. So this is a long way from the Midwestern part of
From the concrete jungle.
Country. Yeah, exactly. So a couple things probably that would lead me here. One, my grandparents, my mom's parents, were big travelers. And not worldwide travelers, but they enjoyed traveling around the United States. And they sold farm real estate for a living. So you don't sell a farm in the middle of the year. Either you planted or you didn't plant, but no one buys a farm in the year. So as a result, they took my brother and I as soon as we got out of school in June of every year, and we camped for the summer in different places, driving to different parks, national parks, and camping. So that put the spirit of travel, I'd say, and seeing different things, meeting different people. Now, of course, moving all the way, from the farm to Dubai, with a bit of the travel on steroids, I guess you'd have to say. But in addition to that, I think the real estate industry and my grandfather taught me a lot about people. And people's expectations and how they react to different situations. So I've learned a lot from him, and he's a hero of mine. Also, probably the final point I would make as an inspiration of life, I guess, on the people side, was I worked in a large grocery store. So something the size of a Carrefour or Waitrose here. But I was absolutely fascinated working in a grocery store of what motivated people to buy something as they walked down the aisle, and the things a store does to encourage you to buy. So for instance, they give you a shopping cart that's too large because, one, they want you to fill it. If you give people a small cart, it fills up quick and you go home. So always give people a large cart. And with a
much larger than necessary.
Much larger than necessary. And also being much larger than necessary, you have a difficulty turning around in the aisle, that you tend to go to the end of the aisle. And if you keep walking to the end of the aisle, chances are you're going to buy something else. And there are many stories like that working in a grocery store, which absolutely fascinated me. And so kind of behavioral economics, consumer behaviors have always fascinated me.
The buying brain.
Yes, exactly. The buying brain. Yeah,
it's just a fascinating story, and since you mentioned so much about travel, I strongly believe that travel is the best university that you can attend.
Yes. Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Talking about university, did you envisage what you actually ended up doing over the course of the years when you were in university? Was there anything in your mind that actually you saw it coming 20, 30, 40 years later?
No. I have to say, at the time I was in university, I knew that I would leave the farm. And I wanted to live in a city. But I never envisioned living overseas until quite a bit later. And living in New York wasn't also part of my vision. That was a city that was beyond what I thought I would live in. But now, as a citizen of the world, I've been overseas for more than 25 years. So it's a different place than I ever thought as a child. But of course, then that comes down to, in life, you have to be open-minded. And that goes to your point, travel is a great university. So different places, different people, and being open to different cultures. I'm very fortunate to be where I am and have had the journey that I've had.
So amidst all the top lines and bottom lines, how do you maintain your calm?
uh, and
And
so
sometimes between the lines
yeah,
also.
I'll give credit, I guess, to my parents on maintaining calm. And I probably appear more calm than I am many times, but just genes, is maintaining calm, I guess, and reacting in a measured way. I think is just part of how I
There is
grew
no
up.
activity that you specially do to do that.
There's not an activity that I especially do to remain calm, but in a well-being sense, long walks in the morning or evening is helpful, just to getting rid of negative energy and putting your body back into a more neutral zone or even positive if you can.
Long walks helping bring calm.
Yes. Yeah.
So do you have a wellness routine that you've been following for some years, and does it change with time and place, or it has been the same for so many years? Any wellness mantra you prescribe to?
Yeah, so for me, and it has changed a lot over time, from, I have to say, absence of wellness to focusing on wellness and what wellness means. I mean, a lot of people have a more narrow view of what wellness means. But
What does wellness mean to you?
Oh, wellness to me is kind of spiritual calm. And you get that through a variety of things. You get that from eating right. You get that from exercising. You get that from having space in your life to focus. So
treating people well.
Treating people well, because I do believe in karma. That
Karma.
What goes around comes around. The energy you give is the energy you get. So I do have a strong belief in treating people well. I have a very strong belief in charity. And I still do a variety of things. I'm on the board of directors of a hospital foundation in my hometown still. I believe in that very strongly.
And any wellness mantra that
So for me right now, again, the long walks, particularly in the morning is a nice walk. That's an energy walk to me in the morning. In the evening, it's an energy drain that you want to. You've grabbed so much energy over a day in the course of your job that you need to release it before you interact with your family sometimes, and that also a believer in having a bit of distance and space. From leaving the work environment to entering the home environment.
So basically, when you walk in the morning, you gain energy, and when you walk in the evening, it's a de-stress activity.
Correct.
And spacing between home and work. So having that boundary line is one of your wellness mantras.
I like that. Yeah. And for me, it's I need about 30 minutes, is just of space between. Yeah, me time. Just between the work environment and the home environment, so I can decompress.
Decompress.
Talk about decompress. Very recently, the global recruitment firm Challenger, May and Christmas released a report saying that between 2002 and 2023, there were almost 1,914 exits of CEOs. Exits. Okay. And unfortunately, there were almost 19 fatalities in the job. Right. So what I'm coming to, Bryan, is that do you think of course, there is a lot of talk about it, and maybe, it's lip service. It needs to be going well beyond lip service. Don't you think that the clarion call for work-life balance should be far more emphasized across organizations, across levels? What are your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that work-life balance tipped a bit too far. Maybe pre-COVID and COVID maybe helped us adjust ourselves. That everyone working from home had a chance to take a break. You know, it's easier to stand up at home and walk around, that you're in a different environment. I personally do not like working from home because my mindset is different when I'm in the house versus in the office. But having a work-life balance of being able to cut your time and focus where you need to focus. And so a big one there, again, is when I guess, will walk in the house, the phone goes down. And typically goes in another room to be plugged in for charging, and I leave it alone.
Airplane mode. Maybe airplane mode, you know?
Yes, exactly. Just leave it aside. And spend a couple hours focusing on where your mind needs to be when you come home. And I would challenge everyone to that phone has become an appendage. You know, that you feel nervous when you can't see it, when you can't touch it. When it buzzes, you want to know what happened. You know, and so putting the phone in another room, putting it on silent, or turning it off is necessary, I think. Maybe the people at Apple or Google won't appreciate that, but it's necessary to let it be.
Absolutely.
This is such a well-being thought. This is, as a wellness coach, this is the first thing that we advise to people who have anxiety, constant anxiety. Half the problem is solved if they stop looking at the phone constantly.
Yes.
There's no anxiety.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
I mean, this anxiety has just started coming in the last few years. It was never there before.
Correct.
Constant ringing, constant notifications, constantly just having that FOMO that you've missed out on something and the world is coming to an end if you don't see your phone is one big part of anxiety.
That's right. That's right. And there's even some psychological theories of the phone buzzing you when it's not in your hand. You know, that you will feel a buzz. You know, that
the phantom effect.
The phantom effect. That you'll feel something in your pocket, you'll feel something in your hand, even though you're not touching your phone. And that's a good sign that you've held it too long over the course of the day. And so sometimes, you know, when you take a break, and it's healthy, I think, to have a vacation or a holiday for more than a week. Because it takes a week, for me anyway, it takes a week for me to relax, to let go. And so the second week of my vacation, I'm totally relaxed. The first week, I'm slowly getting into the mode.
Cat on a hot tin roof.
Yes, exactly. I also found in a sense that when I was CEO in particular, that if I took a week off, a week away, my team would wait for me to sign something. If I took 2 weeks off, they would get on with life.
They would normalize.
They would normalize themselves. So less than a week or less, people wait for you to come back for a decision. 2 weeks, they'll take the decision themselves. So let them take a decision. All right?
So the advice is to have longer vacations as a CEO.
Correct.
That's nice. What are your ways of deriving positive energy with the power of discipline?
With the power of discipline, and you mean myself. We're not talking about disciplining other people.
How do you derive energy?
Well, I'm a big creature of habit, too. And my wife can probably tell you a number of stories there. If I walk in the house and put my keys in a place that I don't normally put them, I won't find them. You know, so to me, routine and discipline is critical to well-being as well, because I need to know what's next.
Sense of predictability.
A little bit of a sense of predictability, exactly. I get to the office at the same time. I typically get coffee at the same place. You know, that it's just, I don't want to think about those things. They're my routine. And so when people upset your routine, then you're off for the day.
So do you feel that when you're on routine and you're on point all the time, there is more energy and you have this natural internal energy?
I won't say there's more energy. There's more positive energy if you stay in a routine. There's more energy when you get knocked off of your routine. But not all of that energy when you get knocked off of your routine is positive. That negative energy will come out then as well.
So routine is positive energy.
For me, it is, definitely.
Nice to know.
Well, Brian, running a big business amidst technological, geopolitical, cultural upheavals, obviously it takes its toll, because once upon a time it used to be you tell people what to do and they abide and they follow, they confirm, they comply, they adhere. I think the needle is moved from engaging with them, inspiring them, being their North Star. Put some guardrails, so to speak. I feel probably the time for enhanced level of moral leadership is really, really conducive now. What would be your thoughts on this?
I think what you described as a work environment, a modern work environment now, is different from many years ago. So you don't have that pyramid anymore. That you kind of have a rectangle that is generally very flat. And as a CEO, you want to put people together and make sure that there's harmony in the office. Not easy to do sometimes, because you want different personalities reporting to you, and those personalities sometimes clash. So as a CEO running an organization, running a flat organization, you need to do a lot in the team building area and force people to interact with each other. It's a very different environment now. You're still the one that's in charge. You're still the one that's accountable. And your team needs to know that the decision rests with you, but you want input, and you want group input, you want team input, because you've assembled a team on purpose.
Right.
And those people have to lead the organization as a group.
All right, absolutely.
What are the 3 key points that you would attribute to professional success, physical health, and mental health? So let's start with professional success.
Professional success, to me, is being open to listening more than hearing, and communicating. And in today's environment, that you can be very technically strong and not advance in an organization as a leader. On the flip side, you can be technically weak and be a very strong communicator and move forward in an organization. It's just what type of leadership that you need. So sometimes the leader is not the smartest. And so for me, there were people on my executive committee who were smarter than me, without any question. But I was the leader of the organization.
Because of communication, strong communication.
Strong communication.
So listening, being open, and communicating your views on a particular thing really helps you to move forward.
Yes.
Professionally.
Yes. And being part of a team. No I in team, I guess, is a kind of a cliche.
So us and not I.
Yes, exactly. That you have to think together, you have to work together in team environments.
So to the young people, to the young entrepreneurs and to the young generation who are working really hard to, get there, even if they are not very well versed or very technically sound, if they work on their communication skills, there are more chances that they move forward faster.
Yeah, is
what I understand.
So I'm not knocking technical expertise. You have to know your industry. You have to know your field. But do not underestimate the ability to network and the ability to work in a team as qualifications for leading.
Nice. And what are the 3 key points for physical health that you think are very important? 3 key points.
Yeah. So physical health, again, to me, gets into your routine. And so this is not my strong suit. That I go through different phases in life, where that I will have physical routine, going to the gym or doing things. But I'm easily knocked off on that.
Join the club.
And so I can go to the gym for 2 months and then have a long business trip and come back, and you have jet lag for a couple of days. You don't go to the gym. Then, I've got some meeting with friends. You don't go to the gym for a couple more days. And then all of a sudden a week has gone by and the routine is gone. that you have to go get it back, and that's a challenge. So for me, that the physical activity, I have to force myself into. That's not a natural thing for me.
When you want to get back to your physical health routine in full force, does the motivation come to you from intrinsic factors, or you get it from outside when you see people? And I mean, how do you get your motivation back to get back to the routine?
Yeah, quite often that's the role of my wife, to push me back into the routine, because I will think about it every day. I need to go to the gym, and then I will get distracted.
That's what they are called, better half.
Yeah. So I will get distracted and find a reason not to. My wife is the one that puts me back in the middle of the road sometimes, and that's a key element. So externally,
External motivation is required.
Yes, exactly. Okay.
What are your 3 key points for spiritual health?
So in a spiritual health, one, the long walks, I think, helps me, just to gain composure and to rid myself of negative energy that you've gained over the course of the day. Not all days have negative energy. Some days are all positive, but it helps to release. I also get very strongly motivated by helping others, and that's where the charity issues come in. That makes me feel good. As a story, my mom was in the hospital for a day last week, and she took pizzas to the nurses. And I do this all the time. As I said, I'm on the board of directors of a hospital foundation in my hometown, and I'm known for sending cakes and pizzas to the nurses and the medical people. I won't say all nurses. I think nursing is a very underappreciated, thankless role in life. Same,
teachers, nurses, wives, exactly.
Yeah, that they're under-rewarded and underappreciated. So I like to help there where I can. Next week, I'm talking to one of my friends from home. Her son wants some career advice getting through university. Things like that motivate me, that I'm happy to do things like that. That gives me some energy in a positive way that I can carry through the day just by helping someone.
So you gain your spiritual health or by basically giving in any form, whether it's help, whether it's kind of gifts, advice.
Yes, yeah.
So it helps you.
It does help.
And I'm quite curious to know, when you say long walks, are you like always doing your 10,000 steps? Are you measuring that, or they are just mindless, endless walks? I mean, is it because of the steps that you need to finish, or is it just the flow?
So I do like the 10,000 steps, I have to admit. And I do get motivation by the rings,
the vibration.
Watch, okay, I've got 12 out of 12 hours standing. I've got my exercise ring is closed, but I don't wear this watch every day, so some days in the office. And then you get home and you've got 0 steps at 7 o'clock. There's no chance I'm getting 10,000, right? So I won't put the watch on after 9 o'clock, because then I may not get 12 out of 12. So I don't want that. I will leave it alone rather than put it down and go to bed with only 9 out of 12.
You feel these gadgets motivate and push? Because nowadays a lot of people are addicted to these gadgets. Do you think these are a channel to motivate people, or
So it varies from people, person to person. So I'll tell you, generally, I think they do motivate people. That it gives you a goal. And that goal is on your wrist, telling you, reminding you that you haven't hit it yet. So I think a lot of people are motivated by that. It keeps them on track. There's a negative part, though, of having this on your wrist, that as soon as the exercise ring closes, you think you can have a cookie. Right? I've earned it. And so some people actually have gained weight as the result of having a calorie counter or something, an exercise ring, because they think as long if I do my 10,000 steps, I can have a piece of cake. You know, or I can eat that hamburger.
You know, the classic marshmallow test.
Uh-huh.
You know, the kids, you know, you wait for some time, you get two, but if you're impatient, you get only one.
Correct. Yeah. No, it's very true.
In fact, I very recently read, Bryan, about this. I got fascinated by the term. It's called being a corporate athlete.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And it said that probably that's the way to go to avoid burnout at senior levels, you know. So, you know, your discipline, your focus, your exercise, your diet, your a lot of other things that, you know, because when you're an athlete, all these things, you know, you come into play, you know. What do you have to say about this? You know, I mean, because like they say, if you want to improve in your industry, you look at somebody else's, right? You can actually kind of borrow a lot of things from outside.
Right.
So the idea of a corporate athlete, being a corporate athlete, you know, does it appeal to you?
It does. I don't know 100% what that term means. I've heard it a few times. But you do look around sometimes, and I mean, there's a lot of corporate leaders who appear to be very fit, you know. And so when you look at these people, you know, the leaders of Apple or Amazon or whatnot, then you say, okay,
Starbucks.
Starbucks. I mean, you know, Howard Schultz is a great example of that. Like, how do they remain fit? I mean, my job can't be more stressful than their job. Right? Given the weight that's on their shoulders. So where do they fit it in over the course of the day? And they have to have a discipline, a routine. Of course, sometimes the CEO of Starbucks can probably afford somebody to remind him, you know, of when to eat, when not to eat, what not to eat. And that may be helpful as well, that you're not as distracted.
So, what are some of the activities that you train your mind for professional success and personal growth?
Training my mind. So sometimes I will take a moment during the day to recharge, you know, and I may watch something meaningless on YouTube for 10 minutes, just to put myself back in a positive mode, something funny. This is what, to me, a 5-minute recharge, just to watch something funny, to have a quick laugh, and then get back into the swing of a day. Again, I think standing up, walking around, talking to people, and so that's not only, I think, part of your day that helps you spiritually recharge, but it's another part that goes to the giving exercise. That if you walk around the office, and I was notorious for this when I was CEO, and walk around and find somebody that I haven't spoken with in a month or 2 months, and sit down at their desk and say, hey, how's it going? You know? And I think the team appreciates that. Some get nervous when the CEO sits at the desk, like, what do you want from me? But most appreciate the fact that you took the time to say hello, and you took the time to ask about a family member. You took the time to say, how was your weekend? That it makes them feel wanted in an organization. It builds up a team spirit. And for me, it helps too, that if I've made somebody laugh, or if I've, you know, shared a story, or just made people feel, you know, that they were appreciated, that makes me feel good, and I can carry on with the rest of my day, and hopefully it made that person feel good as well. Some may have left more nervous. I don't know why he stopped by. Did he really want something? You know, you get.
Absolutely.
Some people are paranoid, but in
there
general,
is a terminology for this, right? You know, management by wandering around.
Yes, managing by walking around. That's exactly right. Yeah, always keep a piece of paper in your hand. Looks like you're going somewhere.
You know, and you know, if you want to actually the corporate, you know, ethos, carry a pencil and, you know, hand, show that you're busy.
Yes, exactly.
When you're coming up the ranks, you know, I mean, show that you're busy. You know?
That's exactly,
all those
all those little small things. But I am a believer kind of in managing by walking around. That I think that's something
The best feedback, the most constructive and open feedback comes, off the cuff.
And again, that's part of the communication that drives an organization. That you have to make people feel like they're a team member and that their opinion matters and that I care about, genuinely care.
Right,
I mean, you can tell the people who are faking it,
right.
I think, at this too. And sometimes if you're not good at this, maybe you shouldn't do it. But for me, that was a good part of my day, is just going out and having an interaction.
And some activities that you do for your own personal growth.
So I like to read, for sure. So that's part of my personal growth.
And how much time do you recommend that one should read,
Well, so we'll say read for pleasure, in that sense. But at least 30 minutes a day you need to read for pleasure, I think. Not something that's on your desk, not a new regulation or a new policy, not that type
out
of
of
reading,
the box, just read for 30.
Not the one that the algorithm wants you to.
That's right. That's exactly right. And I try to have a fiction book and then a nonfiction book. I try to alternate. Yeah.
And what are your 3 best books that you would recommend or you've read and you never forget those books?
Tuesdays with Morrie, my favorite book, Mitch Albom. And that's a book that really gives you a lot of introspection in life.
Sorry, Tuesdays with?
Morrie.
Morrie, okay.
Yeah. It's a very quick
Slice of life book?
So I mean, I'll let you read the book.
Okay.
But the author spends a day with someone who's actually dying.
Oh, okay.
So every Tuesday he visits this man and learns a lot about life from this man. It's a sad book, but I carry that book all the time.
There is a similar book, about this professor's last day at class because he's suffering from terminal cancer. Something similar?
Something
but
similar.
In the name, right?
Yeah. So that's
Tuesdays with Morrie.
Tuesdays with Morrie. I love that book. I also like, and this is a series of books, but almost everything that Malcolm Gladwell has written.
Outliers and Blink
Outliers,
and
or not think, but just putting yourself in this different view of the world sometimes, it's just
very contrarian, very
exactly, and I like that. I love behavioral economics, so this goes back to the grocery store that I worked in. That these things fascinate me, and Malcolm Gladwell books just give you a different way of thinking about the world, each one of them.
Another classic writer whom I admire a lot, behavioral economics, is Rory Sutherland.
Yeah.
He's written this book called Alchemy, and he's the vice chairman of Ogilvy.
Yeah.
I mean, incredible, very, very motivating, very, very inspiring.
Yeah. And I'll give one more author that I would throw out in the series is Thomas Friedman.
The World is Flat.
The World is Flat, The Lexus and the Olive Tree, I think was the first book I ever read about. But The World is Flat is one of the great ones.
And then he had an extension of that, right? The World is flat, something else, right?
I can't remember what that one is. One of my favorites too is Thank You for Being Late. And I use that as a lot of times part of my presentations or whatever. But and the book goes, that he goes from meeting to meeting. But one day somebody he was meeting with was going to be 10 minutes late. And he said, thanks. Thanks for being late, because I just had 10 minutes to sit here and think about something, that it was a pleasure, that the person was late.
You talked about management by walking around and, do you see being an organization, being inclusive is actually akin to being winclusive?
Well, yes, I do. And again, organizations are flat now, so you can't look at the organization in a pyramid.
There is no top down.
If you look at an organization top down, you're going to fail. In my book as CEO, it doesn't work that way anymore. You may want it to work that way, and you may think, listen, you you report to this person reports to me, so deal with that person first. That is not the way an organization works.
Right, absolutely.
So another curious question. So you said that you worked for a couple of years in the grocery stores
I did,
in when you were young. What are some of the things that you learned there and you implemented in your professional success as a CEO? Some things that you learned from there and you applied those same traits or some techniques from there and they really helped you at work.
Yeah.
At a senior level.
Yeah. So the biggest one is thinking through other people's shoes.
Empathy.
Empathy. So I'll give you one lesson, and this maybe sounds a little bit like a trick, but when I worked in a grocery store, I generally knew what we had, what we did not have. And so when someone would ask me, do you have any more grapes? Let's pick
This is
something.
well before the computer inventory and all of that.
Yes, yeah, but you knew what was in the store, and you knew that if it wasn't out on the floor, we probably don't have it. That there's no sense in having a big stock of things in the back. So somebody would come up, do you have any more grapes? Even if I knew there were no more grapes, I would go to the back and count to 10 and come back out and say, I checked, we don't have any more. I knew that answer, but if I said no, they got angry. All I had to do was count to 10 out of their view, and they were very happy that I looked, I checked, don't have it. That was appreciated. And there's a lot of things in a grocery store too, of one of which is that if you put things in a basket, so you can both now go to a Carrefour next time you're there. You put things in a basket, just jumbled up, throw them all in. People will assume that that's on sale. All the time, 100% of the time. You can raise the price and throw everything in a basket, and people will buy it immediately because they think if it's that messy, it must be a sale. Must be.
How do you use that at work?
Because you have to think in other people's mindset. So you can spend
You're putting yourself in the other person's shoes.
You can spend all day making things pretty, and people won't buy it. If you make it look attractive to them, they buy it. Okay, and that's not just a sales issue, that's an idea. If you make a little bit of a mess and show people at the end of the day what the mess was, they'll learn more. If you give them these shiny PowerPoint decks, in consulting firms, which I'm in now, consulting firms are notorious for this, so having shiny PowerPoint decks with. And nowadays, they don't want you to print anymore. So everything on the PowerPoint deck is in font 8 or whatever, that it looks good on the screen. If you print it, you can't read it. It's too small. So you end up with these dense decks. They're very pretty, but chances are no one's going to read it. Give them a mess. Let them put it together themselves. And at the end of the day, they'll learn something from that.
So making things messy is equal to making things look attractive.
Yeah.
And empathy. These are the two things that I think have helped.
So, we briefly touched upon it when we met last. A lot of the C-suite leaders and senior leaders in business, there is somehow a perennial quest for external validation. It also, tags along, dovetails with their, probably overly ambitious nature. Which is obviously the domino effect is that you end up burning yourself out, and we are not Hercules or we are not Machiavelli, right?
Right.
For a reason. We are mortals for a reason.
Right.
So in that context, do you do any kind of radical self-inquiry? Okay, I'm well beyond that. To me, no is a complete sentence. Do you do anything of that sort?
I do, but that goes to the communication, because you'll get sometimes negative communication, and you want to encourage that. You don't like every organization.
You don't want to be mollycoddled and in cotton wool all the time, right?
Well, every organization has the constant whiner. There's somebody who has something negative to say all the time. That I never have positive to say. But there's a kernel of truth in everything, you know. So the key there, again, is to listen, you know, and take it back and think. They're I don't want to deal with that, you know, they're just complainer. But think why? Why would they complain? You know, what in their shoes, again, and it puts yourself back in their shoes. You know, what's the issue here? And what should we do about it, you know, to give people comfort.
Lovely. As a leader, do you rely on gut instinct? I know you're in the BFSI space, and there is a lot of the ABCD, like, you know, artificial intelligence, blockchain, cloud, and data analytics, and all of that. How do you kind of integrate, because the gut instinct is a series of aggregated experiences that you've acquired over 3 decades, 4 decades, whatever it is, you know. Obviously, there is got to be some merit and substance in it as well, you know. What kind of a leader are you, gut or the other side?
Yeah, so I'm on the horoscope side of the world, Libra, you know, so...
Beautiful people.
So yeah, so I do a lot of things by gut, but my gut will change. You know, so I have to be a little bit cautious of myself because I'm looking for a quick decision sometimes.
Right.
And sometimes quick decisions are not the best.
Yeah.
So it's helpful if you've got a big decision to have time to reflect. Even once you've decided, okay, this is the way I'm going, think it through, you know, an extra night sometimes is helpful.
Sleep over it, as they say.
Sleep over it, you know, come in with a fresh idea or fresh mind tomorrow morning and rehash it again. And is it still my gut feeling? Do I have any more negativity, more alterations that I want to make? So I'm generally guided by gut, but I also realize that can be a weakness.
So talking about gut instinct, anything that you do to maintain your gut health?
Well, so, you know, my doctor's probably in charge of that, of watching out for fried stuff, you know. And I have to say I love fried stuff, you know, that, and when I stare at the samosa sometimes
You like the samosa?
I love samosas. And so when you stare at...
You must get him next time, you know.
Yeah, I mean...
So, you know, when you're in line at the Waitrose deli and there they are, you know, a beautiful pile of samosas there in front of you, and you realize, shouldn't have that.
I thought you would say potato chips. I mean,
yeah, I'm not a big potato chip person. I'm really not. I do like fried foods, and I need to stay away from them. My biggest weakness is sweets, you know, and many times in the course of a meal, I'm already thinking about what dessert am I going to have. You know,
you want to reverse the sequence.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so I shouldn't eat too much because I do want that dessert. You know. So from a gut health standpoint, I think you need to treat your body properly, and so eating just to eat is not the way to go. That you have to refuel your body with what it needs, and so when you see that beautiful pile of samosas. And then only 2 meters away, there's a nice broccoli salad. You know, force yourself 2 more meters, get the broccoli.
That's unfair. Church and state. Church and state.
So one is avoiding frieds, and what else?
Yeah. I don't really eat dinner. So I try not to have much in the evening because I find that I sleep better. I wake up better, fresher if I haven't had dinner. Sometimes you do. I mean, you know, so Valentine's Day was just a couple days ago, so of course we had dinner then. But generally, I try to avoid anything, particularly anything heavy at night, and that helps too.
You mentioned about grandparents growing up, you know, people who inspired you.
Yes. Okay,
one is within the family, outside of the family, people that have really inspired you, you know, subliminally, overtly, in whatever form.
That's a good question. I mean, I tend to be inspired by athletes, you know, but not necessarily an athlete just for their athleticism, but an athlete who had a sense of purpose, you know. So ones who carried, again, a charity, or you know, that stood for a cause.
Colin Kaepernick and all this.
The what?
The Colin Kaepernicks of the world.
Yes, yeah. I don't know that I went along with him completely, but
yeah, I mean, he had a purpose.
he had a purpose.
Yeah. Something similar, you
exactly,
might say. Yeah.
Exactly. So a number like that, I think that really stood for something. They were fortunate; they were God-given talents, you know, as athletes.
But who made use of it?
Stood something
and made use of it.
And made use of it.
Because a lot of people who are gifted, you know, but they don't bring in the effort and the integrity to kind of take it to the fullest realization.
Exactly. Yeah. That's true.
So with so much stress and anxiety and different forms of depression that people are going through these days, especially, how do you manage your emotions and build focus?
Well, I think that's a collective of everything that we've talked about today. You know, of focusing your energy in a positive way, doing something in the course of the day that makes you feel good, whether it's a charity or whether it's just having a communication or having a chat with the taxi driver. You know, I mean, there are things over the course of the day, you know, interacting with people and doing something positive. So, you know, if
do what you love what you do.
Exactly, you know, and at the end of the day, you have to have in your mind, I think, a mission of, I want to leave the world in a better place than I found it, you know. And if you think about that every single day, you know, do something good for people over the course of the day. Do something positive, and force yourself into that mindset. You'll feel better. Now, other things in terms of your wellness, you know, of course, eating right and, you know, getting some exercise and all very important. But for me, leaving the world in a better place than where I found it is a good motto for life.
I think that's a good place to sum up. Maybe as a thought, as something that you want to tell the audience, okay? Because what happens is we glorify the victors, the success, the very, very successful people, the type A's.
Yeah.
But there are so much learnings from failings. Okay. Yeah. Do you, in your experience, in your vast experience, you know, as you become grayer, wiser, what are some of the failings that you actually really, really learned from, you know?
Well, I mean,
it could be even a disappointment because you have a level of expectation and it is suboptimal in terms of what you realize actually.
Yeah. Yeah, there are, I don't know, I can make a list of things that didn't go as planned, I guess, but the key is to focus on where it went wrong. You know, could I have done something to correct what went wrong? Should I have done something to correct what was wrong? Of course, that's, you can't replay life, you know, that you get a chance to learn a lesson and do it differently next time. But I think that's the key, that you cannot dwell on the past. You have to learn from the past and then move forward. So life should be a constant learning journey, and there's two things, I guess, that I would tell people, and quite often do, that money should not be your primary motivator in life. That will get you in a bad situation better than it will in a good situation. So focus on what makes you happy, and then you'll be happy, you know. And also that if you're in a job that you've stopped learning, get another one, you know, because life's too short to stop learning at any point in time. Continuously learn. And sometimes you learn from people who are like you, or sometimes you learn from people who are not like you. You know, so I have a motto as well, is that don't delete people from your Facebook account. Maybe Facebook is old now, you know, but even if you disagree with what they're posting, you know, barring something that's offensive, you know, but even if you disagree, listen. Why do they think the way they do? I think one of the world's biggest problems right now is that from social media that you end up deleting everyone with a different opinion until you're left with 100 friends, which I'm sure they're
like
friends,
an echo chamber.
and they're an echo chamber of each other. And then you think the world thinks like this, and so when you encounter someone with a different opinion, you throw them out, and that's not right. And that causes then this polarity we have now in politics and with societies that, it's either this way or that way, but nothing in the middle. And that's really sad, the way that's coming out.
I think that's a great place to conclude here. Enough of cancel culture. Continue to learn and unlearn, because we're not perfect, otherwise we would be immortals. Thanks so much, Bryan, for doing this with us. Thank you for the time. Look forward to catching up soon.
Thank you, Suresh. Thank you.
Thank you so much.